Sometimes, the most unexpected moments lead to the most profound transformations. When a troubled teenager made a reckless decision to vandalize a stranger's truck, he never imagined the act would set him on a path of redemption. But the owner of that truck wasn't just any man, he was a Marine with a heart of steel and an unexpected lesson to teach. What happened next didn't just shock the boy, it changed his life forever. The night was quiet when the Marine, a disciplined and honorable man, heard the sound of scraping metal outside his home. Rushing out, he caught a young boy in the act spray painting his prized truck. Anger flashed through him, but as he got closer, he saw something deeper in the boy's eyes: fear, regret, and a cry for help. Instead of calling the police or yelling, the Marine did something unexpected. He handed the boy a sponge and a bucket of soapy water. "You're going to clean this up," he said firmly, "and then you're going to come back every weekend and work for me until you've repaid the damage." What started as punishment became mentorship. The Marine taught the boy discipline, respect, and the value of hard work. He showed him that mistakes don't define a person, choices do. Over time, the boy transformed, not just in behavior, but in spirit. Years later, that same young man stood tall in a Marine Corps uniform, having followed in the footsteps of the man who showed him mercy. At his graduation, he turned to his mentor and said, "You didn't just clean up my mess, you saved my life." And in that moment, the Marine knew the greatest battles aren't fought with weapons, but with compassion. The Marine, Sergeant Daniel Reyes, had seen his fair share of battles both overseas and at home, but none had tested his patience and resolve quite like the defiant teenager standing before him that night. The boy, 16-year-old Jason Carter, had a reputation in the neighborhood for trouble skipping school, petty theft, and now vandalism. Most people had written him off, but Reyes saw something else: potential. Every Saturday, Jason showed up at Reyes' house, not just to wash the truck, but to work. He mowed the lawn, fixed fences, and helped with repairs, all under the watchful eye of the Marine. At first, Jason grumbled, his attitude sharp with resentment. But Reyes never wavered. He spoke to him not with condescension, but with the firm respect of a leader. One afternoon, after weeks of grueling labor, Reyes tossed Jason a cold bottle of water and sat beside him on the porch. "You ever think about what you want to do with your life?" he asked. Jason shrugged, staring at the ground. "No. Nobody thinks I'll amount to much anyway." Reyes took a slow sip of water. "I used to be just like you," he admitted, angry, lost. Then a drill instructor took a chance on me, changed everything. He turned to Jason. "You've got two choices: keep making excuses, or prove everyone wrong." Something clicked in Jason that day. He started showing up early, working harder, even asking questions about Reyes' time in the Corps. The Marine, recognizing the spark of determination, began teaching him more than just chores. He taught him discipline, integrity, and the power of self-respect. Months passed, and Jason's grades improved. He joined the school's ROTC program, surprising everyone, including himself. The boy who wants to face property now stood a little taller, his shoulders squared with newfound purpose. Then came the day Jason walked into Reyes' garage in a crisp dress uniform, his face beaming with pride. "I leave for boot camp next week," he said. Reyes, rarely one to show emotion, pulled him into a firm embrace. "Make me proud, Marine." Years later, at Jason's promotion ceremony, he stood before a crowd of fellow soldiers, his voice steady but thick with emotion as he addressed the man who had believed in him. "Sergeant Reyes, you could have had me arrested that night. Instead, you gave me a second chance and a future. You taught me that a real man isn't defined by his mistakes, but by what he does after." As the crowd applauded, Reyes gave a rare, approving nod. The kid who once left scratches on his truck had become a leader, a protector, a Marine. And in that moment, Reyes knew the greatest victory of his life wasn't on any battlefield, but in the heart of a boy he refused to give up on. Years later, Sergeant Daniel Reyes stood in the back of a crowded high school auditorium, arms crossed, as a now Captain Jason Carter addressed a sea of restless teenagers. The school had invited Jason to speak as part of an outreach program. For at-risk youth, a full-circle moment. Neither man could have predicted that fateful night. A decade earlier, Jason scanned the room, his gaze lingering on the bored expressions and slouched postures. He recognized the defiance in their eyes. It was the same look he'd once worn. "Let me tell you about the worst night of my life," Jason began, his voice cutting through the murmurs. He described the spray paint, the fear, the moment he was certain his future was over. Then he nodded toward the back of the room. That man right there. He didn't see a criminal. He saw a kid who needed someone to believe in him. A girl in the front row scoffed. So what? You got lucky. Nobody's gonna give me a second chance. Jason smiled the same knowing smile Reyes had once given him. You're right. No one's going to hand it to you, but you can take it. He pulled a wrinkled photo from his pocket, the first picture of him and Reyes, standing by the now pristine truck after a long day of work. This wasn't about luck. It was about a choice. His choice to care, and mine to change. After the assembly, a lanky boy named Marcus lingered, kicking at the floor. Is that true? All that Marine stuff? He asked skeptically. Jason studied him, the defensive posture, the toed-up act, every word. He said, then glanced at Reyes. In fact, Sergeant Reyes here still mentors kids. Have you ever worked with tools? Marcus shrugged. I could handle it. Reyes stepped forward, extending a calloused hand. Good. My garage roof needs patching. Saturday, 7 a.m., 7 in the morning. Marcus groaned. You want a second chance? Reyes raised an eyebrow. Earn it. As Marcus walked away, grumbling. Jason chuckled. Think he'll show. Reyes watched the boy disappear around the corner. Doesn't matter. What matters is that we do. The story didn't end there. Marcus did show up late, but he came, and like Jason before him, he discovered something unexpected in Reyes' tough love. Hope. Years later, a photo sat on Reyes' mantle, 3 generations of unlikely survivors. Jason in his dress blues, Marcus in his EMT uniform, and the old Marine between them, his hand on their shoulders. The truck, now restored to gleaming perfection, stood in the background. On the frame, an inscription. Some men fight wars overseas. Others fight them in parking lots. The bravest battles are the ones we fight for each other. And in that quiet way of his, Reyes knew this was the mission that mattered most. The truck still bears one small, untouched scratch under the passenger door. A reminder that from broken things, stronger ones are built. Sergeant Reyes could have chosen anger that night. He could have called the police, demanded punishment, and walked away. But he didn't. Instead, he saw past the vandalism, past the defiance, and saw a lost kid who needed guidance, not judgment. Jason could have run. He could have resisted, ignored the lessons, and stayed on the same destructive path. But he didn't. He chose to change. And in doing so, he proved that redemption isn't about where you start, it's about the courage to take the hand that pulls you up. Some battles aren't fought with weapons, but with patience. Some victories aren't won with force, but with faith. And sometimes, the most powerful act of service isn't defending a country, it's saving a single life.